by Chuck Baldwin, former presidential candidate. Brian, let's go ahead and go into that.
It's Getting Very Serious Now by Chuck Baldwin, News with Views, May 12, 2009. Let me ask a reasonable question. How long does anyone think it would be after being profiled by the Department of Homeland Security and denied the lawful purchase of firearms, that those same people would be subjected to gun confiscation? And how long do you think it would be before the DHS began profiling more and more groups of people, thus subjecting them to gun confiscation? This was exactly the strategy employed by Adolf Hitler. The Jews were the first people denied their civil rights, especially the right to own and possess firearms. Of course, after disarming the Jews, the rest of the German citizenry was likewise disarmed, and we all know where that led. I'm not sure how many of the American people realized that it was the attempted confiscation of the colonists' cache of arms in Concord, Massachusetts, that started America's war for independence. Yes, my friends, it was an attempted gun confiscation that triggered, pun intended, the shot heard around the world. And now it would appear that once again a central government is on the verge of trying to deny the American people their right to keep and bear arms. I am told that as of 2004, 50% of the adults in the United States owned one or more firearms, totaling some 270 million privately owned firearms nationwide. I would venture to say that the vast majority of these gun owners would find themselves matching the Department of Homeland Security profile of a potential extremist. I wonder how many gun owners realize the way they are now being targeted by their government and just how serious and how close the threat of gun confiscation has become. If one doubts the intention of the elitists in government today to deny the American people of their right to keep and bear arms, consider what former Secretary of State Henry Kissinger is being purported to have said just a couple of weeks ago. Kissinger attended a high-level meeting with Russian President Medvedev that also included former Secretaries of State James Baker, George Shultz, former Secretary of Defense William Perry, and former Senator Sam Nunn. Included in the discussions was Kissinger that the American people were now ready to accept a new world order. He is also reported to have told Medvedev, by September, we will have confiscated all privately owned guns, so it really doesn't matter what we do. We'll still be in charge. Whether Kissinger actually made the statement or not, he is, and the rest of his ilk, have repeatedly called for a new world order in which there will be no constitutional protection for the right to keep and bear arms. This leads to a very serious question. How many American gun owners would allow their government to deny them gun ownership? Further, how many would passively sit back and allow their guns to be confiscated? As humbly and meekly as I know how to say it, as for me in my house, gun confiscation is the one act of tyranny that crosses the line. Debate, discourse, discussion, and peaceful dissent cease and desist at that point. And I say again, it's getting very serious now.
Well, we've already seen with the earlier the D.C. gun ban, Chicago having a gun ban, not confiscation but preventment from ascertaining a gun, all kinds of different ways they're coming at the Second Amendment, and as you've said before, to facilitate this New World Order agenda that obviously they're trying to put together, they have to attack the Second Amendment. And what amazes me is we've got people out here buying up guns, buying up ammunition. That tells me they see something's wrong. They're worried Obama's going to try to confiscate their guns. They see attack on their Second Amendment, but they can't put together the whole picture that this economic collapse is by design. We're being marched into a new world order. The Bilderberg Group is meeting right now designing our fate, but they have a problem making the jump from this level to this level to facilitate exactly where we're at and how dire a situation we are really in. You know, we've had Gil call in several times, gun shows, people buying bullets by the palletfuls. You know from your own experience, there's shortages of guns, or bullets. I talked to Al just a couple weeks ago, shortages of 22 bullets. I mean, it is very serious, and people in the know, like Chuck Baldwin, see what is happening.
Yeah, and this isn't just anyone saying this, some yokel up in the hills somewhere. This is a former presidential candidate saying all this.
I want to also tell everyone, when we start the next hour, Virginia Fox is going to be joining us. We want to take phone calls and let the listeners ask your Congresswoman questions. Me and Brian's going to ask her a couple of questions to begin with, and then we want to let you call in. I'm going to give you the number now. Don't call in now. Call in after the 10 o'clock hour, after we go to the top of the hour break. But so you can write down the number, 1-866-986-NEWS, 1-866-986-6397, and we're just going to continue with some news that apparently Mr. Fuller wasn't able to join us. Hopefully we can reschedule him, and again, hopefully we will have Jim Tucker with us next week. You can go to our website and see who we have scheduled. We're not going to be able to talk to him until Monday, but this was reported, Brian, by Reuters news agency this past week. The Obama administration moved on Wednesday to exert more control over the shadowy over-the-counter derivatives market, now closely linked to the global credit crisis. Not been seen in the press much, talking about derivatives. I'll be honest with you, I can't really explain this whole process, but I know those in the know, like Bob Chapman that we have on, says when the derivative bubble busts, it's going to be on, and it's coming. Federal regulators proposed subjecting all over-the-counter derivative dealers whose trades are not made through an exchange, making them hard to monitor, to a robust regime of prudential supervision and regulation, including conservative capital reporting and margin requirements. The plan, sketched out by our hero, Treasury Geithner, and top regulators at a news conference, marks a big step in the administration's push to rewrite rules for banks and financial markets in response to a credit crisis that has sent economies around the world and around the globe reeling. We have reported that this economic collapse by design is being done to facilitate financial powers into fewer and fewer hands. Right here it is in black and white. Reuters is reporting it. U.S. officials have pumped billions, but that's a lie, it's actually trillions, of dollars of taxpayers' money into banks and automakers trying to stem the crisis. Well, how'd that work? Looks like this past week, 1,900 dealerships closing. Last week, they wrapped up stress tests at the nation's 19 largest banks and told 10 of them to raise a combined $74.6 billion. The Obama administration is now aiming to bolster regulatory oversight of the financial system. Over-the-counter derivatives are presently difficult to monitor and supervise. Billionaire investor Warren Buffett has called derivatives financial weapons of mass destruction. Well, that ought to send a chill down your spine. Under current law, they are only loosely policed. We are going to require for the first time all standardized over-the-counter derivative products be centrally cleared, Geithner told the news conference. Explosion in trading. Timothy Geithner is saying right here they're going to consolidate financial power. We are on the hook for the trillions of dollars that's been looted from the U.S. Treasury. In the United States, 4 largest banks control over 90% of the derivatives. J.P. Morgan, what a surprise. Bank of America, Citigroup, and Goldman Sachs have all received taxpayers' aid. Officials did not make it clear which agency would be in charge of the crackdown. They said they would work together to prevent forum shopping for weak rules. Lawmakers disagree over which agency should oversee the OTC derivatives clearing. Laws enforced by both the Securities and Exchange Commissions and Commodity Futures Trading Commissions would have to be amended by Congress to accommodate the administration's plans. Well, obviously, none of these, the Securities and Exchange Commission or Commodity Future Trading Commission, was doing anything to prevent this economic collapse that, as Brian has reported, by the removal of Glass-Steagall and other acts is the reason that we've had this economic collapse by design. But you just listen in the news, and when you hear the word derivatives, you pay attention, because you're going to be hearing a lot more of it and this is going to be the one when she blows, we might enter into the real depression. We're coming up on a break. We will be back in 3 minutes here on The Real News.